huge fans of the TV series.
10-second delay, Nerd Squad. It is 6:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, January 10th, 2025. The federal felons upstairs illegally and criminally cut off the live stream while I was asleep. I took a screenshot on the laptop. Says it ran for over 7 hours, I think 7 hours and 25 minutes. As has been the case all year, my front door is still closed. Remember the protocol that's listed. Why did the federal felons end it upstairs? I don't know, but now they've illegally and criminally ended the last 2 YouTube live streams. One that they let run for 27 minutes and another that they let run until I went to bed. Now I'm up. It's 6:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Fortunately, the live stream that preceded the live stream before this, the first one they illegally and criminally shut off in the last 17 hours, pretty much encompasses the whole morning spiel. So it is 6:28 a.m. PST, and I'll just push play on that. And you'll have to adjust the time and date as it's now January 10th. Here we go. Okay, Nerd Squad, it doesn't reflect that there's any sort of delay, which, based on a pattern of criminality, suggests that they may attempt to interrupt this live stream. It's 7:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Thursday, January 9th, 2025. This is a consensual recording of Mystic Gwen pursuant to the instructions of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'm not an employee of the FBI, but I've been authorized to state I'm an informant since the last week of June 2024. Welcome back to the live stream. This is Mystic Gwen. It is now January 9th, 2025. The time is 7:02 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. As you can see, we're still going 24/7. If you're new here and wondering why this live stream is running around the clock, the full explanation is available in a video on this channel titled Mystic Gwen versus the North Everett Precinct of Fraudsters, the Stalker, the Extortionist, et al. It's just under 2 hours long and lays out everything that's been happening. You can also go to facebook.com/MysticGwenLovesOnlyYou to read my cease and desist letters and declarations from September 15, 2024 to December 29, 2024. These documents provide a detailed timeline of events and the legal actions I've taken. I and the FBI highly recommend you do so, as they're very educational and also reminding. Now, it's crucial to understand this. If this live stream ends for any reason without me orally stating the end time, and that a new live stream will begin in 90 seconds or less, that I did not end it. I.e., just like the last two, that a man and an ugly woman upstairs are responsible for ending. Back to the recording. Remember, it's now 6:30 a.m., January 10th. It's the federal felons of the North Everett Precinct who are operating from the unit directly above my condo of 13 years, and Unit 207 are solely responsible. The FBI has indicated since October that the final illegal entry attempt onto my property will coincide with them illegally shutting off my live stream. They've done this multiple times in the last few weeks, as recently as January 4th. As a result, the FBI has a new rule. My front door is not to be open unless I'm running a live stream concurrent with recording on my $1,000 plus cell phone that the FBI had been put on airplane mode back in August. This is because the North Everett Precinct was attempting to destroy evidence. Furthermore, the FBI has instructed me to place a large stick, whittled and painted by my eldest son, against the inside of my front door. It's positioned in a way that makes it impossible to open the door without shattering the living room window. The FBI stipulated that this will... And that stick is still there, baby. It's been there all year. Remember, the protocol covers what happens when the idiots upstairs add additional obstruction of justice counts to their indictments. Something they do every day. And last night, you guys added 2 additional counts by shutting off the live streams that preceded this.
2 of them.
This will make any conviction for breaking and entering much easier. And on that note, as of 3 a.m. on January 2nd, 2025, my previous invitation to one neighbor to open my front door whenever he desired was rescinded. Let's be clear about something else. According to the FBI, there is still not a single court order with my name on it from 2024 and/or as of January 9th, 2025, either Lynette Renee Hansen or Mystic Gwen that is lawful and not fraudulent. Any attempt to enforce any order with either of those names from those 2 years is illegal. The act of requesting the enforcement is also illegal. Further, the FBI has stated repeatedly that anyone that has a court order with my name on it from those years is 100% guilty of a series of felonies, and that fraudulent court order or orders
2 bags of laundry soap. That's what I've gone over this week.
Because
this week you decided
as outlined on my December 14th,
4
2024
times.
declaration, which you can find on my Facebook page, the amount owed to me is substantial. We're talking about over $14 million. This amount is owed by the North Everett Precinct, the Snohomish County prosecutors, DCYF Unit 207, and other involved parties, as contractually agreed to due to the receipt of my August 14th, 2024 tort claim, my ongoing illegal detainment, now at 155 days, and their continuous stalking, hacking, harassment, civil rights, ADA violations, and general crime spree against me. Again, you can read all about this in the declarations on my Facebook. Many of you know I had a podcast where I detailed these events. Unfortunately, 207. I am currently blocked from adding new episodes to most platforms. However, the FBI had me create a Twitter account just for the podcast. You can find all the episodes, including the latest one from December 29th, 2024, on x.com/mysticgwenpod. That's my podcast only Twitter, not to be confused with my regular Twitter, x.com/realmysticgwen, where you can find posts about the threats from the North Everett Precinct from 2023 that they've since made actionable and will be the cause for what the FBI has referred to as an exodus at the North Everett Precinct. As many of you know, on January 2nd, 2025, a female in Unit 207 was overheard discussing that I will be sued soon by someone and/or an entity identified by the FBI as federal felons. Let's be absolutely clear. The FBI has stated, and I've related in live streams since August, that anyone who sues me will be ordered to pay me a sizable amount. Further, the FBI has also stated that the only one who gets to use the word slander, libel, and incendiary is me. So, any attempts at legal action against me are not only futile, but will backfire spectacularly and be very lucrative for me. For 17 months straight, every Friday, the precinct of fraudsters, which, by the way, the FBI is considering renaming the North Everett Precinct of Stalkers.
Oh, look at that. They broke the live stream.
Criminal actions, which is
Again.
Along with the Snohomish County prosecutors, they've requested others to perpetrate crimes against me and/or threaten me with felonies, gross misdemeanors, and civil rights violations. On Friday, January 3rd, 2025, nothing out of the ordinary happened, making it the 5th Friday where there was a brief reprieve from the escalations, but the crime spree continued. And as of January 6th, there was a woman upstairs that was claiming that this Friday, tomorrow, January 10th, she has lots of plans involving me. They also have plans.
I'm pausing this for a second. So the idiots upstairs ended the live stream 3 hours ago. The live stream Screen Nerd Squad is doing something as the preceding live stream that they cut off. They cut off illegally the last 2 live streams was doing. That is to say, I'm unable to watch the video on the Lenovo ThinkPad. The preceding live stream that they cut off before the directly preceding, i.e. of the last 2 that they cut off, I was not able to watch the first video until a new live stream had initiated. And for this video, I am able to see it on the other laptop. But on the laptop it's running on, Unit 207 has prevented me from seeing the image at all of what is happening in real time. So if you missed it, they've cut off the live stream 2 times in less than 2 hours. And currently, right now, I don't get to see the visual on the camera at all. And then remember, there's a woman that's manic and bipolar who's been upstairs since January 6th, yapping about needing to illegally detain me and her excitement for today. So let's go back to the recording of the intro spiel. Remember, it's January 10th, 6:37 a.m. PST. And some of you are going to prison for the rest of your lives and absolutely deserve it. And you have 3 business days left before people in robes start eluding, if not explicitly informing you of this.
Have plans for the coming week and the week after, but as these threats were heard earlier this week, I think that their plans pretty much end next week, particularly since the FBI has stated that their plans for the 16th, 17th, and 18th have already been sabotaged thanks to the FBI. Keep in mind, those 3 dates have not been mentioned by Unit 207 explicitly. They've been mentioned by the FBI explicitly. So I don't know whether or not this is the North Everett Precinct of Stalkers, the Snohomish County prosecutors that will be federally disbarred next month, and or my multiple times convicted stalker and abuser, and or my extortionist mother. I'm not sure. I just know that according to the FBI, there are people with plans on the 16th, 17th, and 18th, which the FBI has already ruined for them. Okay, where was I on the script? They have plans. The FBI had me record a video on my YouTube titled January 2nd, 11:57 p.m. Greetings to the 36 plus non-immune, soon to be detained people currently illegally on my private property, and have stated for the looming stalking and harassment and ADA and civil rights violators, accepting their looming federal charges of witness tampering, obstruction, intentional misconduct, etc., will then be on record as consenting to their conviction. This recording will be played at the end of this script for all future live streams until they are detained. I also want to address the fact that as of the end of December, the North Everett Precinct and their cohorts have, for the 3rd time since 2022, weaponized the IRS against me. The FBI has verified that this is happening at the behest of the North Everett Precinct each time. Previously, this involved the IRS sending threatening notices about court orders and pretending they didn't have the necessary information to stop harassing and threatening me. I don't have all of the details on the current situation, but the FBI has assured me it's a non-issue as the IRS is cooperating with them. But the FBI wants me to address it in this introductory spiel because they've stated that it speaks to the totality of their crime spree and the looming stalking convictions many an officers and social worker who is actually a predator will be contending with in the very soon future. So, to put it a different way, there hasn't been a break in them using 3rd and 4th and 5th parties to stalk, harass, intimidate, and retaliate against me since September 2023. It's now January 9th, 2025. And according to the unit directly upstairs, they have plans to stalk me all week long. Yeah. Solid 7 days.
Yeah, which they've done a couple times over in less than 12 hours in a desperate bid for my attention to intimidate me, to obstruct justice, and obviously to play around with the evidence tampering of my live streams.
To start telling people directly to their face that they're not just perjurous felons, but that every single thing they've done, they are going to be charged with.
Every single thing.
Keep that in mind.
Including what you've done in the last 11 hours, you stupid men and women. The FBI confirms 2 men upstairs are responsible.
Have 3 business days left. Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. Before people in positions of power start letting them know that their game is over. Mousetrap game. That's the game. Now, where was I on the script?
To reiterate, that is still stuck on an image of my living room.
The FBI had me
You're going to prison, boys.
That they instructed me to add to my exterior and to address them too. The North Everett Precinct of Stalkers, the Owens, and the social workers who are child abusers and stalkers directly upstairs.
You guys.
Yeah. They had me do that, and then they had me photograph those signs, and then they had me file them in Snohomish County Superior Court Case 10-500-5934. Right after they had me serve them on everyone, including the North Everett Precinct and Snohomish County Prosecutor's Office via email, which the FBI had me CC them in. Why do you think the FBI had me do all that, guys?
Yeah, why, guys?
These signs clearly stated that knocking is illegal, being on my private property is illegal, that there is no immunity for those who do so, and that requests for an appointment can be made via email at therealmysticgwen@gmail.com. The only person who attempted was one woman facing federal imprisonment. I also want to make it clear that as of January 4th, 2025, there were many oral threats made upstairs in Unit 207 for the entire coming 7 to 10 days. And then on January 6th, there were discussions from a woman upstairs who felt she was under duress to illegally detain me because of some other federal felons who were going to prison for the rest of their lives that are requesting that she do so. There are plans to acquire the illegal entry that have been attempted over 36 times since the first week of August 2024, when the FBI had me add those dated signs addressed to the North Everett Precinct of stalkers, the extortionists, and even the child abusers moonlighting as child protectors, as can be seen in the filed tort claim of August 14th, 9 days before the second actionable kidnapping and 3 days before the first. That's the update for now, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for your continued support. Remember to check out the video in my Facebook page for the full story. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you on the next live stream. And if the stream suddenly ends, you know who is responsible and that I will be attempting to reinitiate the live stream if possible, assuming I haven't been kidnapped and or illegally arrested and or illegally committed, as has been threatened and premeditated for over a year, from the condo above my home of 13 years, as recently as 3 evenings ago. Now, don't tune away just yet. We are going to play the same recording that you will hear the next time you're on my property, which the FBI assures me I will be receiving $1 million for, which suggests it will neither be my multiple times convicted stalker and abuser or the extortionists that are outside, but rather someone from one of the offices, precincts, and associations that are already looking at a very expensive. There's about a 10-second delay on this recording.
So again, it's 6:44 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I woke up, came out, made some coffee, reprimanded my cat, saw that once again, for the second time in less than 12 hours, the federal felons in the unit directly above my home, some of whom were under duress as recently as 4 days ago because of other people's requests that they illegally detain me, shut off my live stream again. They've allowed this one to initiate, but just like the preceding live streams, the last two, the first one of those two, I have no visual of what's on the camera unless this time round on the Lenovo ThinkPad, if I have it open, I can watch it in real time. The laptop that the live stream is running on has no up-to-date visual. This is because the North Everett Precinct of Fraudsters, which was renamed the North Everett Precinct of Stalkers, and every imbecile in Unit 207 that has high aspirations for today, this weekend, Monday and Tuesday, want to be on record and are now officially requesting they join some of their constituents in prison because of their uptake in the stream of federal felonies surrounding evidence tampering and witness tampering. So remember, part of the reason the FBI had me incorporate into my script at the beginning of these videos the protocol when they shut off the live stream is because, according to the FBI, that paired with the FBI's 360-degree surveillance and images of each and every one of you dumb sacks of shit. And I say that, guys, because these are men upstairs that I am referring to who for a year straight, yes, January 2024 They began stalking me and destroying my private property, all while getting a paycheck to do it. Then they kidnapped my kids. They stole tens of thousands of other dollars. They got involved in a conspiracy. They tried to steal my home. They got me kicked off of a platform I've worked off of for 13 years, perhaps permanently, perhaps semi-permanently. And they're upstairs right now. Some of them have blown the whistle to prevent me from suing them and liquidating their assets and getting all of the money that some of their ex-wives received. But all of them that are doing shit like they've been up to for the last 12 hours are definitely going to prison, even if they've blown the whistle. So at this point in the spiel, I'm to play the recording of what they're going to hear when they're on my private property, which again, there were threats for today, this weekend, and or on Monday and Tuesday, since they've illegally and criminally shut off the last 2 live streams. I'm guessing maybe they're just going to try and pretend like something's occurred during the period that the live streams have been off, as the FBI has stated since August. Anytime and every time they shut off the live stream, they're getting hit with obstruction of justice charges. And that is their MO for shutting off the live stream each and every time. So here's the recording you will hear. And remember, guys, first off, you don't have full access to everything attributed to my Google accounts. Second off, the FBI knows everything you've erased, attempted to get rid of from every account I've ever been on. And contrary to your delusions upstairs, all of the cyber attacks have already been proven beyond a reasonable doubt for over a year. Even though you knuckleheads keep telling yourself by pretending to be my devices that you won't be convicted for any of that, just like you won't be convicted for stalking, kidnapping, conspiracy. So let me just let you know, those of you going to prison, you are going to be labeled, and already have been, domestic terrorist. Domestic terrorist. You're not getting away with anything. So here comes that recording that they'll hear when they're at my door. There's a 10-second delay. It's now 6:49 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, January 10th, 2025.
It is 11:58 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. This is a live stream for the FBI's instructions of my new door greeting that I'm to save and to play for those people who are going to prison that have plans involving, once again, actively stalking me outside of my building. I don't know if this is tomorrow or multiple times over from tomorrow to Wednesday, just that the FBI has informed me to do so. So, in the event that you're hearing this, you're in front of my private property. Stop where you are. You are being recorded. By agreeing to come here, you are agreeing to be charged with obstruction of justice. You are agreeing to be charged with witness tampering. You are agreeing to be charged with stalking. You are agreeing to be charged with criminal trespass. You are agreeing to be charged with ABA violations. You are agreeing to be charged with civil rights violations. You are agreeing to be charged with conspiring with others to deprive me of my civil rights, U.S. Code 42, Section 1985, and any other crimes listed on the signs posted on my property. Let me be clear, you have no immunity for your actions. Any claims of immunity are fraudulent, just like every court order with my names, Lynette Renee Hansen or Mystic Gwen, from 2024 to January 2nd, 2025. The FBI has confirmed that there are no lawful court orders with either of my names from that time period. If you choose to knock on my door or to continue standing on my private property, you are choosing to harass me and stalk me. And if you are attempting to goad me into opening my door to pull off another crime, be aware that you are making yourself personally liable.
Personally liable.
You will be forced to pay me directly from your severance, your 401k, and any other assets you have that will need to be liquidated. No position, excluding the FBI, has any immunity in this situation. I strongly advise you to verify this information with the FBI unless you and or your associates are some of the federal felons going to prison for the rest of their lives due to the crime spree of the North Everett precinct of fraudsters, the Snohomish County Prosecutor's Office, dwindling Department of Child Abusers moonlighting as child protectors, my multiple times convicted stalker and abuser, the extortionist, Anne Marie et al. If you are unable to get verification on anything you have being fraudulent, it is because of your and their looming incarceration
and soon to be unsealed indictments.
Now get off my fucking private property and refrain from further crimes, as the signs on my exterior have stipulated.
For over a year. Remember, this is a retroactive recording as well, the FBI stated. It applies to all 36 plus instances orchestrated by the North Everett precinct of stalkers and all of their associates in Unit 207.
Or less.
Okay, and Nerd Squad, I just emailed myself a selfie that I took that I will upload as a thumbnail to this video if I am able. The current time is 6:54 p.m. PST. The YouTube channel on the Lenovo ThinkPad incorrectly, once again, reflects an improper published video count because of the imbeciles upstairs that are going to prison. And again, Nerd Squad, I can't see anything on this screen while the recording is in process. Exactly like with the live stream that immediately preceded the one before this, which they illegally and criminally shut off at like 7:20 something, because that one I wasn't able to watch visually on this laptop or the other laptop, which isn't logged into this account. And then the one that followed that immediately preceded this, was illegally and criminally shut off at some point in the last 3+ hours while I was asleep. But as has been the case all year, there's a huge painted stick in front of my door for them to shatter the living room window and guarantee themselves some breaking and entering charges to be added to their looming about to be unsealed federal indictments, which include a minimum of 8 counts of felonies. That Class A witness tampering felony is on all of your indictments. So is stalking. All right, so Nerd Squad, I'm not sure if I'll be able to upload the thumbnail from this live stream, as again, I'm still looking at the very first second of the live stream, my living room, during that first moment that it initiated. You should be looking at my ceiling.
And this video, Nerd Squad, I am titling Felons Shut Off 2 Prior Lives. Planning illegal entry / detainment / stalking to Monday. Oh, to Tuesday, excuse me. To Tuesday. Door. Oh, I can't fit door. Okay, Nerd Squad, I am titling this video X 110 6:26 a.m. Felon shut off 2 prior lives, planning illegal entry / detainment / stalking to Tuesday. That's all I can fit. Description, title, sums it up. Upload thumbnail. And Nerd Squad, a selfie from myself the night before last is uploaded, and I'm pushing save. So we will see if that's saved. I am going back, though, before I determine whether or not that's saved, Nerd Squad, to look at 2 emails that I have really quickly. Okay, well, the FBI has confirmed that there's absolutely been people who are going to prison for the rest of their lives upstairs in the unit in the last 12 hours. Yeah. Interesting, guys. I thought over 50% of you blew the whistle. But apparently, more than one person going to prison for the rest of their lives is upstairs, has been since 9:36 p.m. last night. All right, it is 6:59 a.m. PST. And remember, the front door isn't allowed to be opened unless a live stream is running and I'm recording on my $1,000 plus cell phone that they have been attempting to destroy evidence of, that they think they'll be able to destroy all of the evidence of via this laptop that's running a live stream because of my one professional Google account. Just remember, it's been declassified since 2016 or 2015. That the CIA is the one that owns and controls the Gmail account that you guys are on. Yes. If you've missed it, guys, you can Google about how the CIA actually is in full control of Google and all Gmail accounts and YouTube accounts, and has made that public knowledge since 2016 or 2015. I forget exactly what it was declassified, but it is considered I don't know how you pronounce it. It's not the word property because there's an I in it. It's considered to be something that the CIA owns, but that people just are too stupid to acknowledge or discuss. Or to put it another way, I think it's great that you're attempting to do illegal shit on this account, because some of the people who have been wanting to redacted your stupid redacted are very pleased with every time you give them a reason to hate you guys a little more. Back to the Joe Rogan podcast I was listening to from earlier this week. I'm like halfway through episode 2252 with Wesley Hoff.
Stand out from every other animal on this planet. There's this crazy, wild war of biology where life is just eating life all around us. And we just got to some crazy place.
Oh my God. I have to look at my YouTube channel again, see how fucked up the interface is because of them. Nerd Squad, the incorrect published videos for public consumption number is reflected on the channel, screenshotting it at 7:02 a.m. It does reflect here that the live stream they illegally and criminally shut off last. They did so, it says 3 hours ago, but I don't know if that's 3 hours and 5 minutes ago or 3 hours and 30 minutes ago. And let's click on this video and see if there is audio, as there should be. The selfie I took from the night before last is reflected, Nerd Squad. Should see me in a denim onesie.
Which encompasses the whole morning spiel. So it is 6:28 a.m. PST. And I'll just push play on that.
All right, I can hear this.
Which the FBI has already approved.
I can hear that.
It is that their plans for the 16th, 17th.
Remember, I have no visual, Nerd Squad, at all on the live stream from the laptop running it, just like the second to last preceding live stream. The CIA. Nerd Squad, the incorrect published videos for public. 7:03 a.m. PST. Hey, federal felons, did you pray today? Remember, some of you are going to prison for the rest of your lives. The rest of you have blown the whistle as you've been federally mandated to do for over a year, you stupid, slimy enemies of the country. Also, a lot of the domestic terrorists in their organization, huge Trump haters.
Place that far beyond any other creature that's on this planet.
Yeah.
And we did it in a bunch of different ways. We did it in a bunch of different ways all over the place with different scribbles and different icons and different gods and different things. And we're all wondering, like, which one, where did it start? What was the origin of all this? Like, what was the need to write these things down? What purpose did it serve to have these myths and legends and stories? Like, was it just to keep society together, or was it to retell a very important story that was a very unique thing that happened at the dawn of time?
And that's why you see, I mean, the literary compare.
Also, on that note, I just want to remind you all, I have mentioned this at least once, but let me be clear. I'm not authorized to say the full spiel of what I want to say, but I've been authorized, and I have said it. It's just I haven't brought it up for at least 3 months. One of the places that you attempted to use to stalk, harass, intimidate me, and prevent me from earning an income, one of the very places that you used to do that is staffed by full-time Pentagon employees. And they're really grateful that you've made me a millionaire. The end.
Comparison of ancient Near Eastern origin stories is like a really interesting thing to do, because when you look at something like the Enuma Elish, which was the Babylonian creation story, and then you look at something like Genesis chapter 1, there are obvious crossovers with, like I said before, these ancient Near Eastern conventions.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can see that the author of Genesis is making these points that are actually rebutting something like the origin stories of the surrounding cultures that largely believe that matter is like eternal and the gods come out of the created world, and that there's this narrative of the battle that takes place where some gods fight against other gods, and the world around us that we see and like human beings are the end result of this battle. And so they would read this on every Babylonian New Year. And one of the main themes was basically that, like, it's all chance. It's all a random mistake. You were created without purpose and intention because Tiamat gets destroyed. And she's the god that, you know, you come from. And then you read Genesis chapter 1, and it says, in the beginning, God creates the heavens and the earth. And he makes it good. And there's this idea that, like, that's countercultural in the idea that the Babylonians did not think that the world was good. and that like at the end of every refrain, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, and then it's very good at the end, and that humanity in particular is created in the image of God. Like that's a very not just like kings, which a lot of ancient Near Eastern cultures believe that kings were created in the image of God, but that humanity in general is created in the image of God. And this idea of the imago Dei, that that's why you're different. Like why are you different from all the animals? Because you're given something that exemplifies a unique quality. And then the ancient Near Eastern cultures that believe that the planets are gods and that the sea is a god, and Genesis chapter 1 looks at that and it kind of subverts the expectations of the day in getting to this ultimate question of why are we here, what are we supposed to do while we're here, and how do we get out of here. And it says that no, there's purpose, there's meaning, there's intention, and actually a lot of the things that you worship, it's pretty stupid because God created them.
What is the original origin story, or the earliest, I should say, origin story
of
humanity?
I don't know.
Would it be the Mesopotamians? Would it be the Sumerians? Like who had the one that's the oldest?
I mean, the Enuma Elish is pretty old. There are a number of different variations. The problem is that we're largely relying on our complete copies are coming in languages like Akkadian, where the ones in Sumerian are very fragmentary. So even the Epic of Gilgamesh, the copy that we have that kind of is the final, if you go and you read a translation of the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's going to be the one in Akkadian from the Library of Ashurbanipal. But the earlier versions in Sumerian don't even have the flood story. And so and they're more pieced together. And we actually do have another flood story in the Atrahasis, which appears to have been influenced, the Epic of Gilgamesh stories influenced by the Atrahasis. But in terms of written language, I guess it's the Enuma Elish. I wouldn't actually know what the oldest one is. But you get a lot of these origin stories, and they have these themes. You see it in the Bible too. The ancient Near Eastern cultures were very preoccupied with chaos and order. And so it's all about kind of creating order out of the chaos of the world. And that's where I think you do see the parallels.
Well, that's the establishment of society, right?
Yeah, and establishing chaos and certain things being representational of chaos within the created order, the Bible included, but a lot of other ancient cultures saw things like the ocean as the embodiment of unpredictability and chaos. And so that's why you have sea monsters are this very common depiction. The Leviathan in Job, which is this sea monster, and it's representational in a way of, because it appears actually in Babylonian literature too, the Leviathan.
Really?
Yeah, and it's encompassing chaos in the world. And the point of God bringing it up to Job in the book of Job is God has the ability to tame this thing. And even in the book of Revelation, at the end of the Bible, it says that in the new heavens and new earth, there will be no sea. And it's not because, I had a friend who was Australian, and we were kind of working through translating sections of Revelation. He's like, hold on, there will be no sea. I'm Australian, I love the sea. And
every time that
but the point of that though is not necessarily that the body of water is not going to exist. It's that the ocean, the sea,
then you didn't do it
is
the one
so
night that I said,
you go out there and
please,
storms, can come out of nowhere, and
ridiculous.
you die.
Right.
And so there are these motifs that are representational in the ancient world, and we see a lot of those in these creation stories.
So would it be that the dangers of the sea would no longer exist?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the sea kind of working as an analogy of that which is unpredictable. And actually, there's a lot of concepts of the realm of the dead being in the sea that we see throughout this literature. If you read the book of Jonah, there's this kind of stylistic, which you miss when you read it in English, but it's very apparent in Hebrew, where Noah keeps going down. He goes down from his town to the dock, and then he goes down into the boat, and then he goes down into the inside of the boat, and then the storm happens, and then they throw him overboard down
Not
into
right
the
now.
sea and down into the
Try
fish,
again in
and
10 minutes.
he eventually, the fish takes him down into the depths of the sea. And when Jonah prays, he says, I cry out from the depths of Sheol, which is the realm of the dead. So there is actually a form of Jewish interpretation where it argues that Jonah actually died and was resurrected when he was spit up by the fish. And it could be because in the Gospels, Jesus says, all the people are following him and they keep asking him for miracles. Because they're like, we saw you do miracles, do more miracles for us. You know, come on, do a trick, do a trick.
Right.
And Jesus says, the only miracle you're going to get is the sign of Jonah. That just as Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 days, I will be in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 days. You know, prediction of his own death and resurrection. But there is an argument within rabbinical literature that when Jonah says that he's crying out from the depths of Sheol, it's because he's actually dead. And that's one interpretation. But another interpretation could just be that he saw and understood, as a person of his day, the depths of the ocean as where the dead people ended up anyways. Like your soul goes down into the chaos and the disorder of Sheol, which is the realm of the dead.
Is that where they dispose of bodies?
In the ocean?
Yeah.
No.
No?
No.
Vikings did, right? Didn't they like light boats on fire and push them out there?
Yeah.
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 But it wasn't a common practice amongst other civilizations.
Not that I know of. I mean, Jews would definitely, I mean, really ancient Jewish conventions of burial, you would just bury someone in the earth. And then by the time you get to Jesus' day, you had like family tombs and stuff.
Well, there was an ancient hominid that's not human, and one of the things that they were so fascinated about was that they buried their dead, and that they did so in a cave. Do you remember that, Jamie? Do you remember who was discussing that with us? It was, they did not think that this version of ancient primate was capable of these things. And then they seem to have confirmation through these very extensive cave systems that there was at least one area where they would put their dead.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult path to get to this, too. This was a very small hominid. I think people tried to make their way through it, and it's really hard. Like some of these caves, you're like basically crawling on your stomach, which is fucking because people died.
Are you claustrophobic?
No, I'm not claustrophobic.
It's just
normal.
You just
stuff.
don't want to crawl in
I
a
don't want
cave.
to crawl in the middle of the earth into something that's like 11 inches high.
Yeah.
Like squirming slowly. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Their body barely fits in there. And a guy died recently, Brian Murray. Oh, it was Brian. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so they found that this ancient hominid, which, didn't really look like us.
Yeah.
Was burying their dead.
Yeah. I mean, burial conventions change over time. The ways that they're burying, like, in the ancient Israelite days are very different in the conventions than when you get to Jesus.
Its archaeologists uncover evidence of intentional burial cave engravings by early human ancestor. What did that sucker look like? So the Denaldi chamber, what is the type of Homo naledi, right? Homo naledi. Google that, see what they look like. Homo naledi. What we think they look like, right? Whoa. That's great. That's crazy. So as a Christian, what do you think about all this stuff? Like, what do you think about ancient hominids, Australopithecus, Neanderthals? Like,
here's what I think about it. I think Godzilla created it all. For whatever reason, he preferred humans to those other options. But at one point in time, he preferred dinosaurs, guys, and guess how that turned out.
So I gotta stay in my lane. I ultimately would be an advocate for intelligent design, where I would say
the quote I like better,
that
dinosaurs didn't read, look how it turned out for them.
God purposefully created humanity in a way You had Stephen Meyer on, right?
I'm mad at you.
Yeah, so I mean, he's
I already
one of
told
those
you.
guys who
I'm
talks
mad at you.
about
I'm not
kind of
petting you for
the issues that
an hour
he
or
sees
until I
with
see you do a
Right.
happy little
evolution.
run from the litter box.
And I think I have some of those issues too. My friend
That's your
Jonathan
punishment.
McClatchy,
No
he's a
cuddles for me
biologist.
for an
He
hour
does
and
some
a half.
really great presentations on the ways that he sees kind of the intricacies of Neo-Darwinian evolution is not quite
You can mad me all you
explaining
want.
some of what's going on with
Mhm.
things like the fossil record and some of the gaps that we have in there. When you talk about early hominids, I mean, ultimately, I think that there are aspects of the fact that there are ancient cultures which, I mean, humanity obviously looks very different today than it did, you know, if we're going tens of thousands of years ago.
Right.
And so I think that there's a different kind of convention in understanding. But ultimately, I would ascribe
I've
to
already filled
there
up the
being
table anyway.
an original Adam and
It's
Eve,
already been full.
and that
I've already
those
filled it
are
since
our
I've
like,
been-
you want to call them like a first parents kind of thing. But there are other Christians who I would disagree with, but I think have
I'm not
interesting
petting you.
articulations
Say
of
my name
that
until you
in
run
terms of
out
theistic
of
evolution.
your little
I
boxes.
disagree with them, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility to find explanations. I don't think the Bible is trying to explain how people came into existence in the same way that maybe we want it to. And a lot of people read the origin stories in Genesis as a scientific textbook. And I think ultimately that misses the point of what Genesis is trying to say. This goes back to what we were talking about with like, how did the original audience understood this?
Right.
When they read Genesis chapter 1, are they looking at that as an exact prescription of what God did? I mean, in some ways, maybe, but in other ways, they could see that as this like counter apologetic to the other ancient Near Eastern stories, like I explained. So I just think we need to be careful when we're looking at, or even like counting up the genealogies and coming up with a, you know, how old the Earth is. I think that might be missing the forest for the trees in what we're actually looking at when we look at ancient documents and how we're trying to interpret them. But it is a big question, right?
Well, the question of evolution is a fascinating one, right? Because there's obviously something happening, particularly with us, if we really are related to Homo nodaldi, no life validity, or there's something clearly is happening. There's like process of change, and if we don't completely understand all the factors in that process of change, we might miss out. The equation might be incomplete. It's like we know a lot now about evolution that we did not know before, but like all sciences, new data comes in and you have to recalibrate things. Like, have you been paying attention to this? There's a new discussion about dark matter and dark energy.
No.
The new discussion is that it might not be a correct theory, and that what it might be is that time moves differently in the voids between galaxies. And this is a new theory. And, you know, like new enough and discussed enough among people that really understand it that it's getting made. Right. So I'm reading it. Right. So see if you can find that. It's a very complex and nuanced conversation, but most of the universe is dark energy.
FBI wants me to caption all of my videos something similar to what this one is currently captioned until Wednesday. Also, everything that you idiots are calling precautions on your laptops, the FBI is calling felonies. 7:20 a.m. PST, Friday, January 10th, 2025. The day before one of my former stalkers, who may still be a current one's birthday.
Energy, right? It's a giant percentage of the universe is dark energy and dark matter, and we don't really know what that stuff is. And so
a guy that I thought
that
had hobbies into life and shit for the last 7
theory
years.
that might explain better.
I mean, that area of science is crazy.
Nuts.
Great.
And then you have the James Webb Telescope that's giving us even more data than ever
Unlike
before.
the other two, who
You
we
have to look
know.
at all of it and go,
I
wait,
am
why are
their
those
hobby.
things here? How are they there so long ago? Like, what are these red things at the beginning of time? Like, what the fuck
i.e., one
universe
of the
is bonkers.
co-conspirators
Yeah.
of the North Everett
Yeah, and
Police
I mean,
Precinct
I think,
already verified.
well, we
And
get that in
another
history
guy
too,
that
whereas
Judge
we have
Bowden
these kind of
already
what we
ruled
think are
on.
established conventions, and all of a sudden we discover
Right.
something and like completely overthrows the ideas that we have.
Like
Like,
Clovis first.
yeah, or go back to Tepe.
Yeah.
Or actually, good segue.
That's the best one, right?
So yeah, I made something for you.
So,
I make papyri facsimiles. Oh, my
Yeah.
description is a little bit wonky here. I'll fix that. So you were talking about like what is our oldest manuscript evidence? So this guy is P52, John Ryland's 457. So that's a genuine Egyptian papyri that I made. I cut it out for you, and then I transcribed the text on that manuscript. So when we're talking about what is potentially our oldest evidence for the New Testament, this manuscript that most likely comes from Oxyrhynchus, Egypt, is the one that usually is universally accepted as our oldest one. And that contains John 18, where Jesus is on trial before Pilate. And yeah, so that's the one. It's in the John Rylands Library in Manchester, England.
So this is a copy of that exactly? This is exactly what it looks like?
Yeah, so I cut that out on the papyri with a scalpel, and then I transcribed the text on. And
This is, you nerded out.
I know I'm
For real nerded out. This
I'm-
is a real nerding out of.
So that's actually so that's someone else's facsimile, which is not as good as the one I made.
It's not as good. Yours is better.
And where Jesus is on trial before Pilate, and Jesus says, "Everyone who follows the truth, who is following the truth, follows me." And on the back has the words of Pilate saying, "What is truth?" But so part of my research, so the reason I bring this up is because before this was discovered by C.H. Roberts in the 1940s, the convention was, because of a guy named C.H. Bauer, that the Gospel of John was 2nd century. And so he was a student of Hegel. Have you ever heard of Hegelian dialectic? So you have like a thesis, synthesis, and antithesis.
Yes.
So Hegel had this philosophical theory, and his student Bauer takes that and incorporates this into history. And he says, the earliest gospel, Mark, has this very Jewish Jesus, and then the later gospels have a very the last of what I call the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Luke has a very kind of more divine Jesus, and so he says, based on this, John is the last written one. And it combines these two where you get a very human and a very divine Jesus together. And so based on this, he says that John has to be 2nd century. Well, we discover this guy. C.H. Roberts is, literally going through these piles of manuscripts in these drawers that are being stashed away. And he finds this guy, and he sees that it's written on both sides, which is almost exclusively a Christian convention. Because in the ancient world, they used scrolls. And the Christians, for reasons we're not entirely clear on, they start to make codices, books. And so they write on both sides. So he says, okay, this is written on both sides. It's probably a Christian manuscript. So he sends it off to the leading paleographers, or guys who date manuscripts. And they all say, this is the beginning of the 2nd century. And so there's still debate about the dating of this, but the unanimous consensus is that it's comfortably 2nd century, potentially the beginning of the 2nd century, which means that this is found in Egypt. John is probably writing his gospel in Ephesus. So it has to be written by John, spread around, find its way to Egypt, be copied, and then end up in this manuscript, which means that at minimum, you've already pushed the Gospel of John back into the 1st century comfortably, and potentially even most likely into the lifetime of the eyewitnesses of these events. And so all of the literature up until that point from the scholarly consensus about the dating of the Gospel of John gets totally rewritten. And it's because of that guy. And because of my academic work, where I was telling you, in paratextual features, when we look at these tiny manuscripts and you figure out, okay, well, what does that look like on the page? I also made you. So I used 2 different variations of papyri. So you have there where P52 would have been on the page, and based on it's called codicological conventions, the spacings of the words, and the way that the size of the margin that we can see, where it would have been on the page and how big the page would have actually been. So this is like a reconstruction, and then I filled in the rest of the text in the same sort of stylistic hand of the scribes at that time, what that page would have looked like. So this would have come from, would have been essentially like a pocket copy of the Gospel of John.
That's unbelievable. Wow. That's so fascinating.
So this is the kind of work that I do in terms of trying to figure out, okay, you have these fragments. How big would have this codex actually been? How big would have the document been? And then you compare and you contrast them to, say, like non-Christian literature, like Thucydides or Tacitus or Pliny or Cicero or Cassiodoro, those kind of guys, and look at the differences between how these documents would have been put together and written in their day.
God, so beautiful. It's just so bizarre to imagine.
Here's a little story for you. Once upon a time, a bunch of people who thought it was acceptable to be paid for years of work to perpetrate hundreds of crimes against someone with a higher security clearance than the top of their Ponzi scheme, metaphorically speaking, did a bunch of shit, and the feds were watching the whole time. Then they all got arrested and sent to prison for the rest of their lives and made it onto the news because they're a real threat to the judiciary. The end. What was the point of that story? I think it was to say, you idiots have 3 business days left, according to the FBI, before people in robes start letting you know that you're going to prison. Something you already have known since August.
Imagine these people writing this stuff down so long ago.
You know what's wild is when you actually get the chance, which I have a number of times, to actually handle the original documents.
And remember, baby girls, it's $100,000
you know
a day,
why?
you stupid
Is that we used to
cunts.
do
You
that, but
child
actually the oils in your hands are more
kidnapping,
abrasive
fraudster,
than
stalker, hacker,
or even
thieves.
cloth. So
The oils are more.
no, sorry, I said that
A
wrong.
day.
They're less abrasive.
Okay.
So it used to be that you always had to handle things with, gloves, and nowadays we don't do that anymore.
That's
So,
wild.
and
She's touching it with your actual fingers. That's
Yeah.
gotta feel bizarre.
I was at the 2 summers ago. I was at the University of Pennsylvania, and I was looking at a manuscript called P1 or POXC 1.2, and it's a beginning of the 3rd century copy of the first page of Matthew's Gospel. And when I requested access to it, they told me that the last person to request it was when Pope John Paul II came and visited the States, and they pulled it out for him. So on the the library when you used to punch your name, write your name on the cards.
Yeah.
If there was a card, that guy. So I made a facsimile of that one too, and that one is that's the genealogy of Jesus from Matthew's Gospel. Actually, you know what, Jamie? If you go up to the search bar and put CSNTM, those letters, CSNTM.org. So this is the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts. So if you click Digital Manuscript Collection, so they go around the world and they try to digitize all the existing New Testament manuscripts to preserve them. And so you can actually see there on the side, you can click, I want to look at a papyri, and you can go the different conventions of the date or the time.
And so you can read the translation and then go and look at the original source of it.
Yeah, so ideally you always want to go look at the original, but because of organizations like CSNTM, which is actually in Dallas, you people like me don't have to go to Europe where a lot of these manuscripts are housed. We can look at them, and because these are such high grade, that you can figure these things out. So actually, a guy I know, Elijah Hickson, he used that, and he actually figured out that there was a prominent manuscript, P50, which is a forgery. And so he used that based on looking at the digital.
Really?
Yeah, he filled in the gaps within the rips, and saw that the words didn't match up when you fill in the gaps. And so when he's transcribing the text, he's like, wait a minute, I don't think that word fits in there. And based on that, he's like, yeah, that's a forgery, because someone has written the text in after that piece of papyri, which is, these forgeries are almost always a genuine piece of ancient papyri. Someone gets it from like the black market antiquities.
And then just writes on it afterwards.
Yeah, right there. So P50. So if you fill in these holes, they're called lacunas. The words, a lot of the words don't fit. So someone's come along and they've like written up a really good job, because I've fooled scholars, and they've written in the text, but not quite good enough to figure out that not all of the words fit in the gaps that you presented.
What is your take on the Voynich manuscript?
I have no idea what to think of the Voynich manuscript, but it's Middle Ages.
Yeah,
It's just a weird one.
it's a really weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people have been trying to crack that code forever. But what is this? Is it just gibberish? Is it just fake words?
Yeah. I mean, that's,
Why so much time and effort put into making this fake book?
Yeah.
Is it a crazy schizophrenic person who made their own language?
I don't know. There must have been a rich schizophrenic
But
person.
didn't J.R.R. Tolkien create an entire language for Lord of the Rings?
So a lot of the languages, because he was a linguist,
Yeah.
a lot of the languages are based on existing languages.
Okay, so
So,
you just
like-
combine them together to form his own version of it?
Yeah, like Elvish and Dwarvish, and
Yeah.
like they're all based on like ancient Norse or Old English, or so he would like take like those languages, and I mean, if there's anyone who's the best at world building,
Right.
like you can learn Elvish
It's a real language.
because he developed the
Yeah,
language.
That's so crazy.
That is crazy.
That is so the dedication. That's so bananas.
I mean, he was a genius. Guys like him
Yes.
and even Lewis, they were friends.
Oh, really?
C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Really?
Yeah. Tolkien played a big part in Lewis's conversion, because Tolkien was Catholic, and I think Lewis was Irish, and so he couldn't quite become a Catholic. He became a Protestant Anglican. But yeah, they were the Inkling Society. They would meet in Oxford at the what's the pub called? People are gonna listen to this and get mad at me because there's something in Childs.
One of those UK pubs that's been around for 1,000 years.
Yeah, right.
Damn.
And they would meet and talk. They were called the Inkling Society.
Wow.
Yeah. What is Eagle and Child? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny when you read how Tolkien really didn't like Lewis's stuff, because he said it was way too like straightforward. He's like, you got a Jesus lion? Good one. Like you're not beating around the bush on anything.
Nerd
when you got
Squad.
literal Jesus
I don't
that
know
was
what the federal
sacrificed
felons did upstairs.
from the dead.
Oh, you know why they're not allowing the video? I think that it's because somehow they're able to make my laptop go to sleep, because every time I'm looking down, the screen
That would be fascinating.
is reflecting as black.
Sent a copy to
So
Tolkien
let's
before he published it.
Really?
And Tolkien didn't like it.
see if I can change that again, even though this is already set to not go to sleep.
That is crazy. Well, he was wrong.
There's never an issue when the video feature is actually functioning on the live stream, but since the North Everett precinct of fraudsters did what they did with this video,
That's part of the problem.
it's at a bit of a standstill. Yeah, there's nothing else I can do. I could initiate a new live stream,
Yeah.
and perhaps it'll be like the third one
The dark matter
before this,
I was asking about.
fully functioning and whatnot. In fact, I think I'm going to do that, because I am absolutely not cool with having to look at this laptop every couple of minutes just because of some idiots upstairs that decided to enter into a pissing contest with the United States of America. 7:35 a.m. PST, ending this live stream and initiating another.
So you can kind of get away with doing that now.
I felt like this